Are you sure?
Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never ask a bride why she's getting married. Don't wear a skirt on a windy day. Deodorant is not a shower. Don't sniff chili flakes. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
ThePrint won the loyalty of readers and viewers like you because of our granular on-ground reportage, as well as our incisive, well-researched commentary and analysis. But quality journalism needs money, and that's why we need the support of subscribers. Kindly consider taking a paying subscription to ThePrint by clicking on the link in the description below. Everyone, a chronicler recorded, wished to be present to witness the death of the tyrant, traitor, sodomite and ravisher. For weeks, flat-bottomed barges had ferried immense multitudes up the Rhine from Strasbourg and downriver from Basel to watch evil be judged and punished. 28 judges nominated by the sovereigns of 11 states had gathered in the mayor's home at Breisach to judge innumerable murders and rapes, including of nuns, committed by Peter von Hagenbach, governor of the city. Tortured for days before the trial, as was the practice, the governor confessed to many crimes, some of which he was never charged with. Legal scholar Gregory Gordon has recorded, though, that the trial was remarkably fair by those days' standards, with lawyer Hans Irmi mounting a spirited defense. Finally, one evening in the year 1474, the world's first documented international war crimes trial came to an end. Led by judges on horseback, a torch-bearing procession made its way to the scaffold, and an executioner used a sword to detach Sir Peter's head from his shoulders. This week, the International Criminal Court's prosecutor, eminent British lawyer Karim Khan, applied for warrants to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, together with his Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Hamas leaders Yahya Sinwar, Mohammad Deif and Ismail Haniyeh. Khan's decision has earned sharp condemnation from the United States and divided the European Union. The warrants, if finally issued, will have little immediate impact. Like India, the United States and Russia, Israel is not among the 124 nations that are parties to the Rome Convention, which created the International Criminal Court or ICC. Thus, it has no obligation to enforce the warrant. For its part, Hamas leaders probably have more reason to fear elimination in war than trial at The Hague. For the international system, though, the warrants are a critical test of how the world ought to deal with war crimes. Ever since the Tokyo and Nuremberg war crimes trials, which took place after the Second World War, nation-states have sought mechanisms to enforce norms on how nation-states use violence. The ICC's critics have long argued it is too weak-kneed to confront major powers, too entwined with the geopolitical agenda of the West, and too open to ideological abuse to be genuinely effective. The entire idea of countries bound by law, some contend, is a pinko-hippie delusion in a world governed by raw power. The ICC is looking to prove otherwise. Laws of war, the eminent scholar Howard Levi recorded, were regularly debated through the age of empire as anxieties over the consequences of modern industrialized conflict grew. Conferences were convened at Brussels in 1874, at The Hague in 1899, and in Geneva in 1929. Following the First World War, the Allied powers inserted a clause in the Treaty of Versailles imposed on defeated Germany to try its former emperor William II of Hohenzollern for war crimes. But requests for his extradition from the Netherlands were stonewalled. Even though there was little movement towards international criminal courts at that time, some developments took place at the margins. Following the France-Siam War of 1893, law scholar Benjamin Brockman-Haw writes, the two countries set up a binational court to try a Thai official charged with murdering a French officer. Following the carnage of the Second World War, though, the victors agreed to set up an international military tribunal which for the first time had the authority to try, I quote, the major war criminals of the European Axis countries for war crimes and crimes against humanity. The International Court of Justice was set up separately to try disputes between nation states. The genocide in Yugoslavia following the breakup of the Soviet Union led the major Western powers to throw their weight behind the creation of a permanent international criminal court which could prosecute individuals for future crimes. The United States lawyer Karen Sokol has recorded in a report for Congress signed the Treaty of Rome in the year 2000 but withheld ratification. Then President Bill Clinton argued his country should first, quote, have the chance to observe and assess the functioning of the court. Key to the US decision was its failure to persuade other member states that the Security Council, in which the United States had a veto, should have control over what cases were referred to the ICC. Even though US judges are among the 15 elected to the ICC and the country participates as a non-member in ICC deliberations, the fact was that the United States was not willing to let go of the power to nominate cases and therefore risk that its own soldiers might at some stage be prosecuted. For its part, countries like India feared that the West or international human rights organizations might use the ICC to prosecute soldiers involved in counterinsurgency operations. Thus, Lucknow University law scholar Sanjay Gupta has noted, India demanded that the court only operate in those areas where, I quote, the national judicial system is non-existent or unable to deal with the particular crimes. For the vast majority of nation states, the idea that the coercive abilities of great powers would be restrained by law was, however, an attractive one. But the ICC was soon facing allegations of double standards. Even as the ICC spent time pursuing war crimes by African leaders, international relations expert Matt Killingsworth has recorded, it declined to address the civil war in Sri Lanka, the violence in Syria, or the use of white phosphorus by Israel. Later in 2020, the ICC prosecutor decided not to investigate war crimes by United Kingdom forces in Iraq, despite its own findings that these crimes had been committed, Amnesty International reported. This was followed in a decision in 2021 to deprioritize an investigation into war crimes in Afghanistan by United States forces, citing budgetary constraints. The prospect of investigation by the ICC did have some good outcomes. For example, Australia opened an investigation into war crimes committed by its soldiers in Afghanistan. The United Kingdom also arrested 5 special forces personnel reported to have committed war crimes in Syria. Earlier, war crimes inquiries in the United Kingdom disintegrated under political pressure, but the country just didn't want the embarrassment of potential ICC proceedings. From the superb collection of war crimes cases compiled by Kevin Heller and Jerry Simpson, it is clear there are inevitable tensions between the almost theological claims of international law and the ugly real world of war. Law, after all, concerns itself with ethics and the justness of means. Politics, of which violence is just one tool, is relentlessly focused on ends. There is no algorithm that can help us determine with any degree of moral certainty whether brutality or extrajudicial killings are justified. For example, in Punjab or Sri Lanka, some argue that extrajudicial violence was the only means available to eventually save lives by ending a war. Following the Tokyo war crimes trials, Indian judge Radha Binod Pal dissented against a justice which pretended that Western colonialism was not implicated in the horrors Imperial Japan inflicted on the world during the Second World War. There would be no justice, he argued, if Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not tried together with the war criminals who sacked Nanking in China. Yet, a world that hopes to distinguish itself from a barbarism must have some norms. And norms are, after all, meaningless unless there are some institutions to enforce them. Effective norms and effective enforcement will constrain countries like India, but they could also offer means to make them more secure. A world where institutions act to check states patronizing terrorism or ensure effective punishment of wars of aggression cannot be an outcome that isn't worth seeking. The murderous anarchy that suffuses the international system is neither necessary nor inevitable. The International Criminal Court's actions against Israel and Hamas might eventually amount to little, but it does make it imperative for all of us to reflect on the contours of what a better system might be. I'm Praveen Swami, and I'm a contributing editor to ThePrint. Thank you for watching this episode of Security Code.